welcome to the July 6th meeting of the Long Meadow Select Board. I'll start with reading a script for remote Select Board meetings and confirming member access. This is Select Board Chair Tom Wacusa. I will be confirming that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mark Strange.
Here.
Steve Marantz.
Here.
Richard Foster.
Here.
Mark Gold.
Here.
Thank you. Staff, when I call your names, please respond in the affirmative. Lynn Simons.
Present.
Paul Pasterzik. Okay. Deb House.
Here.
Okay. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Representative from Verizon.
Hi, here.
Great. Town moderator, Rebecca Townsend.
Here.
All right. So this open meeting of Long Meadow Select Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth, due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings and such. The governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all the members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Long Meadow Select Board is convening by telephone conference, video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. For resident comment, after announcements of the COVID-19 update and general announcements, I will forward public comment as follows. I will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once I have a list of all public commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting materials. All of the materials for this meeting are available on the agenda posted on longmeadow.org. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of numbers, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to encourage and appropriate with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And so as we go to our agenda, the first order is the update on COVID-19. Do we have any update?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. So I will be providing the COVID-19 update tonight as Chief Dearborn is on a very well-deserved vacation this week. So as of July 6, 2020, There is one active case in the community. Phase 3 of the governor's reopening plan began today. This allows movie theaters and outdoor performance venues to operate museums, cultural and historical sites, fitness centers, and health clubs. Certain indoor recreational activities with low potential for contact can begin. Professional sports teams, under the authority of league-wide rules, may hold games without spectators. And all of this is subject to industry-specific rules concerning capacity and operations. Indoor gatherings are limited to 8 people per 1,000 square feet, but should not exceed 25 people in a single enclosed indoor space. Outdoor gatherings in enclosed spaces are limited to 25% of the facility's maximum permitted occupancy, with a maximum of 100 people in a single enclosed outdoor space. Those are just a few of the modifications that were made in Phase 3, Part 1. And it's expected that we'll be in Phase 3 for longer than we've been in the prior phases. There's 4 phases, and we're not expected to get to Phase 4 until we really truly hit what our new normal will be. So we continue to monitor all that guidance that comes out. It changes fairly frequently, especially as we make adjustments based on certain industries opening up again. And to help us with that ever-changing guidance, we have retained a temporary position of a COVID-19 compliance officer. We've hired retired Fire Captain Andy Frazier to serve in this role. He will be serving part-time to assist in reviewing reopening guidance and compliance for town departments and the school district. Mr. Frazier will be meeting with town departments over the next few weeks to establish priorities and prepare for the upcoming fall elections and fall town meeting. He will also be attending the school's reopening advisory task force and has been an active participant in that process already. We are working toward completing satellite office space in the community house so that we can reopen for walk-in business sometime the middle of July. Once I have a more concrete date on when that modification will be ready, we'll have a full schedule posted so that the public knows that they can come and transact business in those little offices that we are working on still. So that is all I have for a COVID update this week. We have kind of leveled off a little bit, which is very welcome right now, but we need to, continue to socially distance, wear your masks, wash your hands, sanitize. All of that is helping. And I think we're seeing that in the case numbers that we've been experiencing for about 4 to 6 weeks now. They've been in the single digits. So that's really positive news for the community. Everyone's done a terrific job.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about this report? Mark Strange?
Nope.
Steve Marantz?
No.
Richard Foster?
No.
Mark Gold?
No.
Okay, so we'll move on to announcements. I ran across this the other day. Those of you who have been in town a while, just a few years ago, we had a snowstorm. It was a complete whiteout. And one of our plow drivers, Warren Cowles, was out plowing Tina Lane, and he crossed the railroad tracks. His vehicle was struck by a train and he died instantly. We have since been able to get the state and Amtrak to provide safety gates there. And in addition, our Senator, Mr. Markey, Senator Markey has enacted a bill, which the short title they decided is the Warren Cowles Grade Crossing Safety Act. And this is a bill that will seek funding across the United States for intersections and high ridership corridors to make sure when people have to cross those railroad tracks, they will be safe, including people who work for the community. The amount of funding that's being sought is $250 million, which is quite chunk of money, and it will be funded in fiscal year 2021, and then they're looking for fiscal 2022, and then hopefully continuing afterwards. But it was a difficult time for the town to lose a person who had worked for the town for so many years, was really not that far from retirement at the time of his death. But this will be a lasting way to remember Warren Culls with this act, and knowing that future, people who are plowing the roads in snowy conditions, may not suffer the same fate that he did. And so I thought I'd mention that as an announcement. I don't know if anyone has any other announcements. I don't get any indication.
I just have one. I just wanted to let everyone know that the public health nurse, Carol Steiner, has retired after 10 dedicated years to the town. Her last day was last week. And if Carol's watching, I hope she's not. I hope she's enjoying retirement. But if she is, I just want to thank her for her dedication to the town, especially during this pandemic. We're very thankful that she was with us for 10 years, and I hope she has a relaxing retirement.
Good. Any other announcements, folks have? All right. So then we'll move on to resident comments. Do we have anyone on the line who is interested in making resident comments? I don't know if they're muted, but let's see. The folks that I can see, I don't see anyone waving their hand, so I'll make the assumption there are no resident comments. If there is, you could always send a chat to let folks know that you're interested in talking. But seeing none, I will move on. The next item on the agenda is we have a petition hearing at 7:15. We have like a few minutes till then. Maybe we could just ask for approval of some of the minutes. I need a motion to approve the minutes of 6/12/20, which was a special meeting. Select board. Any motion?
I'll move we approve the minutes of the June 12th, 2020 special select board meeting.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay, and Deb, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry, who seconded?
Pardon? Oh, yeah, Mark
Strange.
Mark Strange seconded.
Right. Okay, thank you. Roll call vote, Tom?
Yes.
Mark Strange?
Yes.
Steve?
Abstain, wasn't a member.
Mm-hmm. Mark? Gold?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the June 15th regular meeting.
So move.
Okay, second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, Deb, can you call a roll call vote?
Tom?
Yes.
Mark Strange?
Yes.
Steve?
Abstain.
Mark Gold?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Okay, and June 17th, a special meeting. We have a motion for those minutes.
So move.
Okay, and second.
Second.
All right, Deb, do you want to take a roll call?
Tom?
Yes.
Mark Strange?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Mark Gold?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Hey, we just have another minute. Maybe we could do the June 22nd. We have a motion to accept those minutes.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Mark seconded it. And roll call vote, Deb?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Abstain.
And then 6:24, have a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Deb, if you do a roll call?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Abstain.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your help with that. It is 7:15 and we can move to a hearing for the Verizon petition 1A4RNG3 for William Street. We've received materials from Verizon and we've received comments from the Department of Public Works. Can our representative from Verizon please give us a short presentation of your goals with this?
Tom,
I believe you need a
we open the
motion.
hearing first.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yes, yeah.
We open the hearing.
Okay, so we need a motion to open the hearing then. And Mark, you're Mark Gold,
Yeah, so moved.
so moved, okay. Seconded?
Second.
Okay, I think Mark Strange got it first. A roll call vote to open the hearing. Deb?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Okay, so now that the hearing is opened, representative from Verizon, if you could please tell us what you're up to.
Yes, good evening. My name is Ross Billadu, representing Verizon New England this evening. Verizon is looking to place one jointly owned pole with the electric company, pole number telephone number 50 and a half, and electric number 48M on the northerly side of William Street at a point approximately 136 feet from the center line of Redfern Drive. Purpose of this pole is the company is doing a project in this area, maintenance and storm hardening project. We have a long span out there from the far side of Redfern Drive to the next pole in line. So we're looking to place a pole right in the middle just to support the wires. I believe the existing span is 275 feet. Verizon needs to place this pole because Verizon is the main party on this type of town, even though it is an electric company driven project.
Okay, that's it. Why don't I see if folks have any questions? Mark Strange, you have any questions?
Yeah, just a couple quick ones. So the pole is going to be in the public right of way.
That's correct. This is going to be right in line between the existing poles. It's going to fall right in between the existing wires. So all the existing companies, electric, telephone, cable TV, can attach to that existing pole right where the lines already are.
And which side of the street is that on? Is that on the side where the shops are, or on the other side where the houses are?
It's on the side where the shops are. It's right near the corner of Redfern Drive. All those existing poles run down William Street in this area on the north side of the road.
Did you have any discussions with the property owner for the church? Just curious.
I wouldn't know off the top of my head. Probably one of our engineers or someone from the electric company may have. I wouldn't be privy to that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Any questions from Steve Marantz?
I'm a little confused in that you said this is an electric company deal, but you're here as Verizon proposing this. Verizon Electric Company here proposing this.
I believe Longmeadow is a split maintenance town, so meaning one half of town is maintained or all the poles are removed and set by the electric company. The other side, which is this side of town, is maintained by the telephone company, being Verizon. So we set all of the new poles and remove all of the old poles, regardless of who's asking for it, each company. We own all the poles 50%.
Okay.
All right, Stephen. Richard Foster.
None.
Okay. And Mark Gold.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Exactly what's going on this pole and why can't it go on existing poles?
We're using this pole to harden the lines around there, meaning we have a large span, which is almost 300 feet between two existing poles. That's a substandard span. We usually go about 150 feet. So this is almost double the normal span length existing. So if we put the new pole out there, it's going to bring everything up to our existing standards. And the electric company, I'm not sure what they're doing out there, what exactly. I know that they're running some new wires, but it's really the long span that's why we need this pole.
So, but it's been like this for, I don't know, 25 or 30 years, right? Something's changing.
I understand.
Town with more poles seems to me something's changed. I just wanted to know what it is.
I think the electric company is doing some kind of different configuration, meaning with their wires, they may be moving from a cross arm to a more centrally hung helix type wire, meaning they're all closer together, which would bring the weight of the wires would bring them closer to the ground. Like I said, this is a long span, and that is substandard for both telephone and electric in 2020.
Okay, and finally, we've tried to encourage the utilities to put all the wires underground. Given what we suffered in 2011, we talked more and more about moving wires underground. Why can't these be put underground rather than above ground?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure. This is an electric company's driven project. Unfortunately, you'd have to take that up with them. I cannot speak for their project other than the placement of this pole.
So the answer is you don't have the information.
I suppose it is.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mark. So yeah, the questions I had were really related to what Mark was saying. You know, in the center of our town, in the historic district, you know, everything is underground, or it should be. And this is the other sort of central area of our town where the shops are. And it would be nice to have things moved underground. But it sounds like you're not really the person we can negotiate something like that with.
Not in this forum, no. Unfortunately, I'm not. I can certainly bring your concerns to my superiors and let them know, and have someone who would be more capable of doing that kind of negotiation get in contact.
Mm-hmm. This pole is also placed in front of a location that is, you know, going to be developed in the future. We have no idea exactly when. We know that someone's purchased that property, and so, you know, I guess part of it is being aware that they may have electrical needs that would require, you know, having a pole in this kind of place. But of course, our goal would be to move it underground. And I don't know if folks on the board feel that we should get into that kind of a discussion. I don't know if we've made that kind of a discussion about this section of town, moving things underground. But, you know, at this point, you're asking us to approve this one poll. Is there any further discussion? Oh, I see Mark raising his hand. Yes.
Yeah, the issue, Tom, really is just what Mr. Bilodeau commented, is that frequently what we get is Verizon in here, and it's an Eversource problem, and they say, we don't know, we just need the pole. And I remember the last petition we had was Eversource, and they said, we don't know, Verizon needs the pole. And you know, we just never get the right people in because of this agreement they have of who owns the poles. But, you know, we did have some discussions, and I think we need to have discussions about, you know, is it our desire to move wires underground, whether it's single poles or multiple poles. And, you know, the way to do it, you know, you're never going to have Verizon tear up 42 poles or Eversource tear up 42 poles to put the wires underground. It's too expensive. We can't compel them to do that. But as long as we continue to issue permits to put up one more pole, one more pole, one more pole, they're also never going to move things underground. And you know, I don't know if this is the right forum to do this, you know, and it appears not to be, but we never have the right forum because we always have the wrong person here representing who's putting up the pole and why it needs to be put up. You know, I don't know the urgency to do this, but clearly, you know, Verizon came in here without and nothing against Mr. Bilodeau. I mean, he just doesn't have the information. The questions I asked and the questions other people asked, he can't answer because they're Eversource questions. So I think, you know, my preference would be to bring in Eversource and let them answer the questions. And meanwhile, I do think we ought to develop some kind of policy on what do we want to do in different sections of town or just in any section of town. Instead of putting up new poles as poles to have to be replaced, we tell them to, you know, unless you're replacing it in kind, put the wires underground.
Okay, thanks. I see Mark Strange trying to speak. Would you like to make some comment?
Thanks, Tom. Excuse me. Yeah, I agree with Mark on this one. I think this might be my first, you know, Verizon or Eversource poll public hearing, and I'm just not comfortable voting if that's what we're doing at the end of this without having all the questions answered. You know, obviously it's not Mr. Bilodeau's fault, but I think we should consider keeping the hearing open for another meeting until we can get Verizon and Eversource on the call so they can answer our questions. And just secondly, kind of following up on what you had said, I'd like to just make sure that the owner of the church property has been made aware of the placement of this pole, because eventually, hopefully sooner than later, that property is going to be developed, hopefully. And pole placements can have an impact, obviously. I understand that, you know, if it's a 300-foot span, putting one in the middle, you know, makes sense on the surface, but I'm just not comfortable closing the hearing or voting until we get answers to those questions.
Okay. Any comments from Richard Foster or?
None.
Okay. Stephen Marantz?
Yeah, I'll go. My original question was why is Verizon here and not Eversource? And you know, I agree with the two marks. I think we need to hear from Eversource, and it makes no sense to me that, you know, Eversource comes when Verizon wants something, and Verizon comes when Eversource wants something. That can't be the best way to do business in town. So I agree that we need to hear from the folks who really want this done. And apparently, Eversource is the one who really wants it done. We should hear from them.
Okay, and I feel similar. You know, like this poll has been, the way this has been configured has been that way for a long time, and so our hope, Mr. Bilodeau, was to get some folks in here. Maybe they can explain to us at what point in time this area could be sort of used. You know, the electricity service could move underground, and then I do think we need to contact the person who may be developing that property. And did you guys, in this kind of thing, I know it's on town property, but do you usually contact the abutters, Mr. Bilodeau?
Yes, all the abutters in this area should have been contacted.
Okay.
I know there's like a list of at least 10 abutters who were contacted.
Generally, they get notice of this hearings, Tom. They should
Okay.
get notice of the hearing.
All right, and so we haven't heard from any of them, so that's significant. I guess, do we have a motion to continue this hearing? Or do you want to close the hearing and then reopen it at a future meeting?
No, once we close it, we can't reopen it.
Okay,
Yeah, I would move to continue the hearing for the next meeting or next available meeting so we can get a representative from Eversource or whoever has the answer to the questions that we've asked.
Okay, there's a second on that?
Second.
Okay, Stephen. Any further discussion? Okay, and hopefully we can do it on our July 20th meeting if Verizon and Eversource could be prepared for that. So I'll ask Deb to take a roll call vote.
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Okay. So we'll hope to hear back from you, Mr. Bilodeau. Thank you for coming in, and if you could just communicate our concerns. We don't expect that the whole town is going to be moving its electric wires underground, but we'd like to know. At least we should start one section at a time. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a applicant for interview. I don't know if Dave Martinelli is here joining us.
Sorry, I am.
Okay, and we are, you're applying to be on the tree committee. And
Yes.
so if you could just tell us a little bit, I know you're very familiar with it. But,
Yeah, I've been on the tree committee for a few years.
start with your name and your address, please.
Oh yes, I'm Dave Marinelli, 9 Overbrook Lane. I've lived in town since 1988. I've been on the tree committee since I retired. Must be 5 or 6 years now. I started out as the secretary for a couple of years, and I've been the chairman for a couple of years.
Okay, great. Do folks have any questions for David in regards to this? Yeah, Mark Strange.
Wondering if you would reconsider your decision to retire a second time.
No, I think it's probably best if I continue on the tree committee, but somebody take over some of the other duties and form that working relationship with the DPW that I wasn't able to fully implement.
Fair enough.
Okay. Any other questions on the board? No?
Yeah, I do. It's Mark
Okay,
Gold.
Mark.
Yeah, Dave, I guess my concern is, can the boss step back and be just a worker bee? And how do you see the change in, your relationship? Somebody's going to become the tree warden. And I guess I want to make sure that, it's the elephant in the room. We mention it, that you're aware of it, and that you have at least a plan to attack that.
Yeah, well, there were parts of the job that I enjoyed a lot. I like dealing with the public and talking with them about what trees they would like planted on the tree belt. And there were other parts of the job that were not so enjoyable, and those related to some issues around making things happen and hazard tree assessment. And I think that's a really, really important role that needs to be filled by somebody that can do it, but it doesn't need to be me. And, it's a complicated relationship, the tree warden and the tree committee chair. And I think it's important that they work together. So it's going to be important that we have a good relationship. I know the position has been posted. I don't know if anybody's applied. But certainly I would want to work with that person to keep the forward progress going. I think we've accomplished a lot in the last 20 months. We completed the tree inventory. We assessed our ash trees and treated some and removed others. We treated elm trees for Dutch elm disease. And the big thing was we really started to assess hazard trees and take them down before they became dangerous and fell on houses and cars. And it gave us a better, I'm very data driven. It gave us a better sense for how much we need to do every year. And I'm proud of those accomplishments. And, I think I can provide some continuity and guidance to the new tree warden that wouldn't be there if I didn't continue on the tree committee. But I am looking forward to stepping back and being involved in tree planting and the public relations, but not so much on the day-to-day interactions with the utility companies and homeowners about hazardous trees, storm response. All of that's important and it needs to be done, but it doesn't need to be done by me.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I would just like to say that anyone who drives through town would see how many new tree plantings that have happened, recently. It looks great. And then I also know a lot of people are pretty happy that there were some trees available at the community garden for people to take and plant. And I don't know if they were all taken and found homes, but I know a lot of them were. And that was a great, great addition, something that hadn't been done. And so we will make a decision on your appointment and get back to you. But thank you for your willingness to volunteer for the town.
Thank you. And if I could just point out, if somebody's listening in, I actually have a few leftover trees. I didn't put them all at the community garden because I knew they would need a little TLC to get through the summer. So I've got some trees in pots that'll be available in the fall for people.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know people were looking for the balsam fir, or I forget what kind of fir tree it was for potential Christmas trees.
Yeah, those sold out, but we have some of the bald cypress, some northern pecan, and some shagbark hickories in pots.
Wow. And will those pecan trees actually give edible pecans?
They do. You can grow pecans in this environment. It's Carya illinoisensis, and it's northern hardy pecan tree.
All right. Well, we're making a lot of pecan pies in town, I hope, in the future. Thank you again, Dave.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is select board comments. Do we have any select board comments for tonight's meeting? Okay, then we will move on to the town manager's report. Oh, I see Mark Strange waving. Yes. Mark.
Hey, Tom. So I don't really have a comment per se. I'm wondering if we should move the discussion of racism as a public health crisis up in the agenda, just because I know there's people on the call that are waiting to hear that discussion, and it's the very last item.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. We'll do that. Good. Any other comments? Okay. Then we'll hold on the town manager's report, and we'll move from new business, item 6, which is racism as a public health crisis. Now, this is an issue that first came to the board by Richard Foster, who mentioned the town manager, and then Mark Strange has done some additional work on it. So I think it's fair to give Richard first shot at it. If you have any comments about this subject, Richard?
No, I think we'd move right into what Mark has drafted up. I've been reading over it. It looks like he's captured the essence of it. So I would say our decision should rotate around that document.
Okay, but thank you again, Richard, for bringing it to our attention. So we'll move on to Mark Strange.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Rich. It was great to see that it was on the agenda. So Michael Back, who was a college student who lives in town, he'd reached out a couple weeks back with some information and a kind of a draft resolution for us to consider. He used that as a basis for what we have. I know it's not on the agenda, so the public can't really see what we're seeing, I don't think. So I used Michael's information, and I pulled some stuff from the city of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and some stuff from Cleveland, Ohio, and did a little side research myself and put together this resolution. And I think we should talk about it tonight. and put it on the next agenda or a future agenda, maybe for a formal vote. And in between that time, we can solicit feedback from the public. I know there's 2 or 3 groups in town that have formed that are working on anti-racist efforts. So I'd love to get the input on it. So we provided some information, some evidence as to the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Public Health Association, all groups that have put out statements basically concluding that racism is a public health crisis. And then our resolution pieces of it, most importantly to me, is forming a working group made up of town residents to figure out a way to address racism in town, and potentially with an eye toward creating a formal town meeting blessed committee or board that meets regularly and keeps us ahead of the curve.
Okay, sounds good. Any other comments on this issue? Steve Marantz? I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now? Am I good?
Yes.
I have no problem with the resolution at all. I have no problem with that. We pass it tonight. My only question would be in terms of a public health crisis, as the definition is shouldn't that be coming out of the Board of Health of the town? If this is a public health crisis, I think it's more than public health, and that's, I think, why the board should take action. But if this is if we want this to declare this as a public health crisis, I think the Board of Health should actually do that, as well as the Board of Selectmen doing whatever we want to do in terms of combating racism everywhere we possibly can. But I'm not sure why the Board of Health is not involved in this one, since it would declare it a public health crisis.
Okay. Mark Gold, did you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I had a couple. First, kind of few, I didn't say this under select board comments, but, Steve Marantz said we have no problem voting tonight. I wouldn't. Mark, I appreciate you saying we're going to vote the next time. I don't know about you, but I got this 15 minutes ago or 20 minutes before the meeting started. And that's nobody's fault other than it happens. But we have a policy that we get things that, a few days before so we can take a look at it. And if things happen that you got to get them in the last minute, that's fine. But to ask us to vote, I think is pretty difficult. On the other hand, having read through it, I don't see a whole lot of issues with it. I do have my main question was going to be, is this just a nice thing we should adopt and be good about it? Mark, you commented that it requires the formation of a working group, and yet I don't see that in here. Longmeadow commits itself to serving all residents by prioritizing law enforcement reform, increasing access opportunities, and listening to unheard voices in the community, and combating systemic racism. The town of Longmeadow can be a place where everyone can enjoy more equitable share of dignity and prosperity. All great objectives, but nowhere does it say, we'll be forming a committee or a group that focuses on this. So when I looked at it, I said, great, when we adopt it, what does that mean and how does it change the way we do business? Personally, I'd also comment that, I would have personally changed something because it says serving all the residents by prioritizing law enforcement reform. We've done that. I'd love to have it say something like continuing our prioritization of law enforcement reform. We did that as having our police department be become certified and whatever it is, they have the standards. And I think that just more looks like it's a continuation of what we're doing. So those are my two questions. I don't really see the formation of a working group out of it. And the other thing is I'd like to, if I would have any input, it would be to continuing the prioritization of law enforcement reform rather than just prioritizing.
Yeah, just so Mark Gold, at the bottom of the first page, it says, whereas the Longmeadow Select Board supports the establishment of a working group to address these issues and to seek solutions, reshape discourse, and actively engage all citizens in the dedicated work necessary to address the scourge of systematic racism. It goes on from there. Do you see that paragraph?
Yeah, I see that, but it would seem to me that rather than be aware as, that ought to be an action step, but maybe
Okay.
semantics.
All right, Mark Strange, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I agree. that you're absolutely right, Mark. That should be, that last whereas should be part of the resolution at the bottom. I totally agree with that. And what was your other point, Mark?
It said prioritizing law enforcement.
Oh yeah.
Or I'd say continuing to prioritize.
No problems with that. That makes sense too. But I feel strongly that, obviously, as you said, Mark, you guys got this too late to have any meaningful vote on it tonight. But I would like to give the public, some time to take a look at it, and people that know more about this topic than I do, to weigh in on it.
Okay, and again, Mark, you mentioned the police force being accredited, and part of that accreditation reviews stuff like ongoing training in terms of cultural awareness and racism issues. So, but there's very few departments that are accredited in the country, and so we hope that ours are in good shape. But those are important issues to address, and I know I think I've mentioned this before in public comment. That in terms of when you look at restraining people, and which involves the police because they're the only ones in our town who are legally able to restrain anyone. That training may need some fine tuning. That the idea of using chokeholds might be something that we wouldn't allow in our town. That it would have to be a life and death situation where we could determine that would be a viable option for an officer who felt his life was in danger. But if a person is handcuffed, then we would say, well, there's no reason to ever choke someone in that situation. I also know from my own training when I went to the academy to become a sheriff of Hammond County, that there was really no work done on like a wrestling mat where you would wrestle around with people. It was all on hard surfaces. Now I know that the police generally work in that kind of surface, but I guess I'd look at, maybe we could look at some training things where they could use the wrestling mat in the high school and really begin to look at containment in a way that would eliminate chokeholds. When I first saw this material come forward, I think that it's important that we realize that the health problems, they talk about to children and to a lot of different folks, but also to the mothers of African-American sons and the grandmothers who have to worry their entire life that their child won't be murdered by a police officer. And I know we don't think that would happen in our town, but there are mothers all over the country who do carry that burden. And when we look at racism, it doesn't take too many racists to kind of upset the whole apple cart. And if we don't say something, basically we're condoning. And that, we don't want to be accused of that. And I really appreciate folks on the board and from town who brought this to our attention. Before we move on, I don't know if Richard Foster, if you had anything else to add to the discussion?
No, I don't think so, Tom. I think it's the decision's right to let this sit for a week and let's do a little bit more research, do some fine tweaking on the document before it's embraced. I think we have buy-in from all board members, so we know the direction this is going to go. We just give a little bit of time for some retweaking.
Okay.
Can I just ask that for the next time we talk about this, Lynn, just come back with what this means to our resources and priorities in town. We're trying to put together, I think elsewhere in the meeting, our priorities for the goals for the coming year. And I think if we add this one, it's something that, something's going to have to be done. So if we can just get a sense of what that entails, it would be helpful.
Yes, and as you pointed out, passing this is just the beginning of a process. So great, thank you. So So then why don't we go back to our agenda? The only person we have waiting is Rebecca Townsend, and I think we should probably hit that next on the agenda. And I thought it was important that we did a review of the annual town meeting. So if we can do that, that was number 5 on our agenda. So I guess I'll start by saying that, when we first talked about having an outdoor meeting, I was thinking, oh my God, we have trouble when people can't understand everyone in the indoor town meeting, and what's it going to be like outside. And the job that was done, and I really want to give credit to the leaders of Rebecca Townsend and Lynn Simons, who made sure that everything was in order. It could have got dicey, especially with some of the bigger issues. If people felt they couldn't hear each other, it could have given people the wrong impression. And I know that the ones who would face the brunt of negative criticisms, unfortunately, weren't going to be the board members. I'd be concerned that the 2 individuals whose names I mentioned would face a lot of problems, and so everything went smoothly, so they should get all the credit. And so I think I'm going to start with Rebecca. If you have any comments, after their town meeting about how you think it went or what we might do differently if we ever have to do this again.
Well, thank you, Tom. Our idea to have the professional company bring in the sound equipment, and so that made all the difference in the world. Town meetings they must be heard by the participants. That's a legal requirement. You don't have to see what's going on, but you do have to be able to hear the proceedings. And so that was really important to have the high quality professional services that Lynn secured. And certainly John Dearborn, the Chief Dearborn's work, as Lynn had mentioned before, he's on a well-deserved vacation, and I just went above and beyond any job description he has. It was really incredible to work alongside him. So I deeply appreciate those 2, as well as the numerous staff members who assisted with the whole process. And of course, I thank the workers who, some were volunteers and some were paid, who provided a lot of time and effort into making sure that this meeting could happen. We needed extra volunteers, extra workers. So I thank them. And I finally thank the voters who showed up. We had 299 voters, which is not bad. We usually have between 400 and 600 at an annual town meeting. So 299, given that it's past high school ending in the summer during a pandemic, that's not a bad turnout at all.
Yeah,
so I'm glad that voters did feel comfortable enough to come in those numbers. As appreciative as I am for everything that did go well, there were some areas where things could have been different. They could have been improved. And I had solicited anonymous feedback from workers, as well as been paying attention myself. I mean, there are things that just didn't work out as I thought they would, and things that I would have done differently. But one area that I would definitely direct the town's attention to is to ensure that we have adequate staffing at the check-in desks. This year, for whatever reasons, we didn't have an assistant town clerk. And because we had 2 check-in stations, we had to make sure that we brought in a board of registrars person to be able to assist with any check-in problems that resulted. The lines were normal lines, but this is not normal time, and the lines, in my view, were too long, and we needed to have sped those up considerably. The other aspects of the workings of town meeting, I can submit the worker feedback to anybody who would like it, who would like to see this detail. But for the most part, things went fairly smoothly. And I'm thrilled to note that town meeting was not the cause of any kind of outbreak in town because of the safety measures that we put in place. There was no incidence of any kind of a spike or any raise. In fact, Chief Dearborn had said, as Lynn reported earlier in the meeting, that we're lower now than what we were when we had town meeting. So that gives me a great deal of comfort. Finally, I would look forward to working with the board and with Lynn and others again in terms of planning the fall meeting. I know it's October, but it will be here before we know it. And without knowing where we stand in the community with regard to COVID, I think we need to take some precautions. I don't know what the weather is going to be like for whether an outdoor meeting is possible, and I'm thinking it's probably not, but I want to gather more data on community cases for those towns that have had town meetings indoors. And with that, I'll take any questions or comments.
Yes, good. Well, let's hold the questions for a minute. I just wanted Lynn Simons to make a few comments, and then we'll do some questions.
Sure. I'm not going to repeat what Rebecca said because I think she was spot on with everything she said. The only thing I do want to call out specifically is thank yous to the people that really had been meeting for 2 months at least at Rebecca's, forward thinking in needing to pull us all together. I think, what did we start meeting early April, I think, to start this, maybe even late March. And really, I think all the credit goes to her for thinking about this needs to be really thought out and planned for. So a huge thank you to Rebecca. That was great to have us not rush at the last minute to try to pull this together. We had plenty of time to work through what I think came off as a terrific town meeting, given the circumstances. But we also had a terrific team of Nick Jorgantis from DPW, Mario Mazza, the rest of the staff at Long Meadow DPW, who stood out there all day in the field and set those chairs up and set tables up and just helped make sure all the plans were in place. Paul Sturzik, Tracy Durant, Ryan Kazaka, Kevin Zabawa from LCTV. And we had Andrew Zucchino and his team from Sonics Pro Audio. That was the audio people we hired. Certainly Long Meadow High School Principal Paul Dunkerley, Chief Stocks, Captain Fontaine, Long Meadow Police Department who were there, making sure that everything went off safely. Town Clerk Kathy Ingram, Health Director Beverly Hirshorn, former Select Board Chair Marie Angelides, current Select Board Chair Tom Lakusha, who had joined us for our last logistics meeting when we were making the call to go forward with it. We were kind of holding our breath for that Monday call. And then Town Council Jesse Belcher-Timmy, who had been in all those calls with us, making sure we were doing what we could and following all the ever-changing guidance that was coming out. Deputy Chief Maxada and Long Meadow Fire Department, and a huge, huge thank you to Chief Dearborn. He was just beyond vital in all of the planning that went forward, and definitely cannot leave out all the town meeting workers that worked and volunteered their time to make sure that we had everything in place and people knew what to do. They went to training sessions, they did Zooms, and then they showed up and kind of just went in the motions with the rest of us. Even though we, had planned everything out, it's still, we weren't sure how exactly it would go off. You'd never planned for everything. We had 299 voters, which equates to 2.53% voter turnout. And as you all know, because most of you were there, we had 38 articles. So the video has been posted up on Long Meadow TV, and it's linked on longmeadow.org town meeting site if anybody wants to see it. And we'll take maybe this week off, and then next week we'll regroup and start talking about October.
Okay, Lynn, thank you. I'm glad you caught everybody. We didn't miss anyone out because it was a big change. It was historic to have it outside, and it went so well. We can't take it for granted. So I'd seen Mark Gold. Did you have a comment you wanted to make? Yeah.
It wasn't so much, I guess it's a comment or a question, and that is, one of the ways we got through this was through multiple consent agendas, some planned and many unplanned. And I was just wondering if anybody got any feedback from people that said, there wasn't sufficient amount of discussion on many of the topics or many of the articles. I mean, we went through a lot of information in a very relatively brief period of time, considering we spent an hour on Article 14 and another hour on the other 37 articles.
So, anyone have comments or have any feedback? Yeah, Rebecca.
I mean, unless the other members of the select board did, the one comment was, well, we did have a lot of consent agendas, and yeah, we did. And as Mark said, some were planned and some were certainly unplanned and required some quicker thinking. The interesting thing to me is that when we did have, I think it might have been Article 10, but we did have somebody hold one of the early consent agenda items, hold it for separate consideration. And yet nobody rose to speak about it. And so that to me showed that, well, people did know how to hold something for separate consideration. They can do it, but not everything needed to be discussed. And the people saved their time and energy for the items that they really did want to discuss.
Yeah. Good. Any other comments? Mark Strange, you have any comments or questions?
No.
Okay. Richard Foster?
Done.
Steve Marantz?
No.
Okay. All right. So then, well, thank you, Rebecca. Maybe you could take a couple of weeks off, but I appreciate you coming to so many meetings this year to keep us informed, and you've gotten a raise, which I think is great news. No one's told me you aren't going to get it, so I assume you got it. So great, well deserved. Okay.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. So we'll move on to our town manager report. Lynn Simmons.
Hello.
Hi.
Town manager report.
All right, thanks. So I did the COVID-19 update already, but certainly all updates on COVID-19 are available on the website. And I also mentioned that town departments are continuing to review guidance. We're retrofitting space in the community house to begin in-person transactions again, and we should be able to announce those sometime in the middle of July. After reviewing the guidelines related to pools and camps, we made the difficult decision to not open for the summer. We just recently extended the furloughs for the majority of those that were furloughed earlier in the pandemic, and we added 4 positions to that list. However, 3 staff were brought back to Storrs Library to assist with the interlibrary loan that's about to start happening again. And then I also mentioned earlier that we retained a COVID-19 compliance officer to assist with reviewing reopening guidance. The adult center granite bench that had been dedicated to former director Karen Michelman had been vandalized and broken over the spring. It is not repairable and does need to be replaced. The adult center director is discussing the options with the Council on Aging and considering what next steps we should take to restore either that bench or some other appropriate dedication. And we're considering it in light of the fact that we're going to be moving to a new space, so possibly incorporating something there. The Department of Public Works has prepared 2 applications to submit to the new Shared Street and Spaces Grant Program. One is for the completion of a pedestrian safety gap of sidewalk on Linwood Drive, which is approximately a half a mile, and would include new crosswalks and wheelchair ramps at 2 cross streets. The other application's for Knollwood Drive, which is currently out to bid, but we did throw that into the grant process to see if we could get some state grant funding for it. The Knollwood Drive sidewalk project, the design was finalized and was put out to bid, and bids are due on July 14th. So at our next meeting, I'll update you on what transpired with those bids. Wolf Swamp Fields, the Conservation Commission approved the request for determination of applicability last month. Final revisions to the project are being made based on that RDA being approved, and that project is expected to go out to bid by the end of this month. There's an Eagle Scout project beginning at Town Hall. This is going to be done by Mason Merchant. Mason's going to work to remove the broken and deteriorating concrete from the decommissioned World War II memorial at Town Hall. He will install better landscaping while preserving the flagpole. Mason has worked with the DPW to determine the best type of plantings to put in place that would be easier to maintain and more tolerant to the area. Once the project is approved by the regional council, Mason will start working on the project in phases. The LED Streetlight Project, the first batch of 400 decorative fixtures have shipped and are expected to be received on July 8th. The second batch is being prepared and should be shipping in the next few weeks. Arden Engineering will be working on an installation schedule, and the online interactive map will be updated based on that installation schedule. The shared health services agreement that we were working on with East Long Meadow, they held a town council meeting the same night as our town meeting, June 23rd. And they had many questions to cost sharing and OPEB liability, as all those employees would be East Long Meadow employees. They continued the conversation to get some more answers on what the financial share would look like and OPEB, and that they will be taking this up again on August 11th. We do have the agreement currently being reviewed by town council, our town attorney, not to be confused with town council in East Long Meadow. And East Long Meadow went live with Westcom on June 29th. And so far, it's been fairly smooth. A couple little bumps that they've been working out, but it's to be expected when you switch over like this. And Westcom is currently in negotiations to purchase Salter College. That is the facility that they did an assessment on and want to move forward with. And that space would allow the operation to grow, to take on more municipalities in the future. That's all I have for a report tonight.
May I add something?
Yes.
I just make the board aware of late last Thursday, we were awarded $31,683 in Maya rewards. Maya is our insurance carrier for property and casualty and liability. These rewards are basically the efforts of our department heads doing certain loss control measures and risk control types of things. Annually, they do send out these rewards. 31,000 is one of the higher amounts that we received within the last few years. Our average over the last 10 years is about 28,000. So just wanted to let the board know that, again, these are reductions in some of our costs in the near future regarding our insurance premiums. And I had sent out a thank you to those participating on the safety committee, who are really the leaders on here, those members being Len, Larry Homaza, John Dearborn, Robert Stocks, or John Stankiewicz Pryor, and Tom Mazza. So that was good news for the town to save a few dollars.
That's great. Yes, I'd like a check for 31K. That would be pretty nice. I'll talk to you later. No, congratulations. Okay, any comments on the town manager report? Mark Strange?
No.
Richard Foster?
No.
Steve Marantz?
No.
Mark Gold?
Yeah, just a quick question. Lynn, is there any way that the DPW can run a lawnmower over the Wolf Swamp fields? It's literally as high as the proverbial elephant's eye out there. And I know we're gonna do it, but with everything shut down, we're not having any organized sports there, but at least somebody could get out there.
Yes, and I've heard that from other residents and have talked to DPW about that, and they will be sending someone out there if they haven't already. I didn't go by there today, so I haven't seen if they were out there yet, but it is on my radar, and I've expressed that to the DPW.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's part of a reseeding program. I don't know if this grass has sprouted any seeds yet, but hopefully it'll thicken everything up. But the other thing is, you didn't mention that on July 1st, we had a virtual volunteer recognition event for volunteers for the senior center. And I know they're used to getting a lunch, but I think they still appreciated the fact they were being recognized for all the work they do every day to help seniors in our community. And so that was another thing that happened. Okay, so if that is it, then let's move to our next agenda item, which is the Cable Advisory Committee appointment. And we had a resident come in last meeting, Kathy Mullins, and she's applying for the a one-year associate term expiring on 2/6/21. Do I have a motion to approve her appointment?
So moved.
Okay, Mark, second?
Second.
Okay, Mark.
Cool.
Yep. Okay, great. Any discussion on Kathy Mullins' appointment? Okay. Deb, will you take a roll call vote?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
I believe I have to abstain. I don't think I was at that meeting.
Okay, so congratulations. And we will move on to communications with AGO regarding pipeline documents. And we had gotten this from a couple of folks, but Mark Strange, I think you're the key person on this. So you want to address this agenda item?
Yeah, sure. So previously we had talked about reaching out to the Attorney General's office to see if there's any way that their attorneys can help us deal with the construction of the meter station by Tennessee Gas and or the laterals which would be constructed by Columbia Gas, eventually Eversource, I guess. And we kind of got bounced around a little bit, but we ended up talking to Elizabeth Mahoney. She's an assistant attorney general and senior policy advisor for the Energy and Environment Bureau. She seemed to be the right person to talk to about it. And so I learned a few things, and I don't know if this is instructive to everybody else, but the Attorney General doesn't represent individuals or municipalities. They represent, quote unquote, the ratepayer. And they typically will get involved in actions before the DPU, Department of Public Utilities. And the action right now, DPU 19-135, which Town of Longmeadow is a party, and which our attorneys, BCK, have been representing us. The Attorney General is also a party to that action. And that's just an example of what they do. So, our initial reason for reaching out to them was to see if they could, have any direct representation with town. We learned that that's not possible. So, the next kind of permitting or state permitting entity or agency will be the Energy Facilities and Siting Board, which is an offset of the DPU. So if and when Columbia Gas or Eversource want to submit for permitting their laterals that would connect to the meter station, they would do that in the EFSB. And so, we asked Attorney Mahoney whether they get involved in those proceedings, and she said that they do.
Okay. Great.
Just a couple other things. They do get involved in FERC actions. So the the overriding Agawam / Longmeadow pipeline project, which is in front of FERC, they got involved with that action, and they've dealt with Tennessee Gas in the past on a state-owned property out in Otis. This is Tennessee Gas again, who has blanket authority under the Natural Gas Act. The Attorney General's office didn't prevail there, so just want to get a little bit of a feel for their history and their experience with all the gas companies. They didn't say how much experience that there was with Columbia Gas, which is a little bit different dynamic considering Columbia Gas is a state entity. The Attorney General is also a state entity. So those were really the highs and the lows. Now we have the information that we saw, and we can move forward accordingly.
Well, it's great. It's nice to have an organization like the Attorney General's office that has some clout, who are aware and willing to participate at appropriate levels. Any other comments? Steve Marantz, any comments on this?
No, but I have a question mark, because I believe that the Attorney General's office did, for us, they did send to FERC. They were interveners with FERC. I mean, I'm not sure it makes a difference since FERC does what they want to do. But isn't the Attorney General's office on our side in that particular filing?
So are they on our side? I think the answer to that is yes, but they don't directly represent the town of Longmeadow.
Okay, but they did put in, I think the Attorney General's office had a fairly long statement saying this was really not a good place to put this meter station.
Right, absolutely. Again, the gist of this conversation was whether or not the Attorney General could directly represent how long that was interests. And they do, indirectly represent, again, the ratepayer, so they do get involved, and they have gotten involved in FERC and the DPU actions.
Okay, if you're done. Richard Foster, do you have any questions or comments?
None, Tom.
Okay. Mark Gold? Any questions or comments, Mark Gold? We can't hear you. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So good. So then, my understanding then is if, they talked about how if, a project like this, goes through, it costs a lot of money, and the ratepayers are going to have to pay for all this, and that's part of their angle, because they're feeling that it isn't, they don't have, it isn't like they're sending gas to one big user like a factory. So there's no, so it sounds like they don't have enough of an argument to say that users are going to pay for this, and so it sounds like the regular ratepayers are going to have to pick up the cost. Is that sort of the angle of the Attorney General? Am I correct?
It is, and in fact, I think they made that exact argument with the DPU, that it's not the necessity of the expansion isn't there when you look at the cost. So we got to go back and dig a little deeper and take a closer look at that brief that the AG's office filed. But yeah, that's essentially the kind of arguments they make.
Okay, great. So if no other comments, we'll move on, and if you just keep us updated as things go on, Mark and Steve, appreciate it. So number 4 is the update on the DPW 21E status. Lynn, if you could just use that.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a very quick update to let the board know, and certainly the residents know, that town attorneys have been engaged in settlement negotiations with the Shapiro's attorneys under the direction of the select board, and that both sides have agreed to mediate the dispute in an effort to avoid the cost and delay of litigation. Just wanted to provide an update on that, and that is regarding the 21E matter.
Okay, great. Any questions for anyone on the board? About this? Okay. And so this 21E for residents, basically there's two sides of this. One side is that the previous owners of the property thought the town may not have paid them enough money, although we did our best. And then the town is concerned about contaminants found on the property. Okay. So if we can go to number 6, the discussion of the water quality report. Most of us received a letter recently about the water quality and our drinking water. And I don't know, Lynn, do you want to? Oh, I'm trying to think about. We had the Springfield Water Commission come in and talk to us in our last meeting, also, and so. There was part of the discussion came up about perhaps using other approaches to clarifying the water, and I don't know if anyone wanted to talk more about that, like I can't remember the name of it. Where you reverse osmosis? Yeah. Anyone have an idea about reverse osmosis? I know the only time I hear about that is I know they used it when they make maple syrup now. But any? Yes, Stephen.
I think that I think we should jump up and down and make as much noise as possible to get, if they're going to build this facility for $80 million,
yeah.
And they do not consider reverse osmosis as a possibility, they're still not doing us, town of Long Meadow, any good. I don't think they're doing any of their customers any good. And I'm not quite sure how we bring it to their attention, since I realize we're not the biggest fish in their pond. But this is something this is technology that, as Mark Gold was talking about during the last meeting, this is state-of-the-art technology. It's been around for a while. It's a lot like solar. The cost of this stuff has come down a lot for companies that do this. And I think it would be irresponsible of us not to bring it to their attention in some way, shape, or form to say, if you're going to spend all this money on this new facility and you don't look at this, you're not doing anyone any good at all. So I'm not quite sure how we bring it to their attention, but I would urge us as a board to do that as much as possible.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Mark Gold?
Yeah, I think we ought to send them a letter from the select board that says, thanks so much for your great presentation. We're concerned about the massive capital projects that you're undertaking, the impact it's going to have on the cost of water for residents, and we'd like you to dig down and take another good look at that capital and the approach you're taking to increasing the capacity for drinking water. We are one of the ratepayers as a town, and I think if nothing else, we need to get involved. But to sit back and wait for them to come back and say, okay, here's the bill, and here's water's going up X amount, pay our capital. We're not the biggest guys in town, but we are one of their customers. And I think we ought to send them a note that says, we're concerned about your capital. And also, very frankly, I think we not only send it to them, but we send it to 2 or 3 of the other towns around who are their big customers, and let them know that we're concerned. And oh, by the way, maybe you ought to be also.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mark, thank you. Richard Foster, any comments?
No, not really, Tom. We have no jurisdiction over Springfield Water Association. I would hope that as they're planning, they would have reached out to all the communities to get with their engineering departments to have them part of the process of at least a discussion process, that we could have actually had more compound answers being brought before us. There's a lot of methods to reduce what's in the water right now. There's a lot of disinfection processes that are used across the country besides reverse osmosis. You've got any variety of them, but they're going to do the cost analysis on it. And if they're coming back and saying that it's going to take $35 million more to put in an osmosis system as large as they need, then we're going to be the ratepayers. We're going to pay the tab, but we don't have that critical link. I'm surprised that we don't have some of our engineering staff or our water staff involved in the preliminary design, even as a ratepayer input committee over there. That's usually what you'll see on these design efforts. And I don't know if we reach out to them. I can't answer that. So maybe the avenue's there and we just haven't taken advantage of it.
Okay, so.
No, but if I could, Tom, but Richard, like, you know, like we do internally for our own capital plan, you know, we got to say, show us what you've done and show us the economics and show us why it's the best approach. We have skin in the game in this $80 million, and we don't get that. All we get is, here's what we did and here's your bill.
No, I totally agree, Mark, 100%. But as I say, we have staff that are involved on this in our water department on a daily basis. And apparently they're not being brought in as part of this design process as a rate user. So I think the flaws remain back with Springfield not opening this up for the input from the technical staff. I mean, we should have multiple sources to bounce our questions off of, other than just one person that comes in on a fast-moving jet and drops a load and takes off on us. That's the point. Now, we don't have a secondary backup on this, Mark, and I think that's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mark Strange, do you have any comments or anything to add? Discussion?
No, I don't. Thanks.
Okay. So, yeah, I think that, you know, we should send a letter. I can work on a draft with Lynn, and we'll try to get something out. And we could send it to other towns if people feel comfortable with that, to make sure that they at least give us a presentation in regards to other options and why they would rule out something like reverse osmosis or other approaches. You know, that, you know, they might. It'd be nice to always, when you're looking at making a purchase, you know, they're basically purchasing a process to clean the water. It's nice to know that they've looked at least 3 different options and then have ruled out 2. And so that's that sounds good. So I will, you know, we'll work on something with Lynn. That sounds reasonable, Lynn. Any comments? Okay. All right. So we'll do that, and yeah, maybe we could get some of our ideas processed by the town, by Long Meadow or Springfield. Okay, so then we can move on to new business. And the first is to approve the updated tree manual document. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to look through it. We've had it a couple of times before us. I guess we could start with a motion to to approve the tree manual.
So moved. Mark Cole.
Mark, and then a second.
Second.
Okay, Mark Strange. And so any discussion on the manual? Paul Pasturzi.
The only one that I have in reading through this is often there's mention of planting on private property. And that just has a concern with our liability insurance and things of that nature. And I'm not quite sure if it's our employees who are going on private property or if it's our contractor who is going on private property. If that was somehow clarified, it might be a little bit easier if it was a third party as opposed to our employees.
Okay, so that sounds like a reasonable thing to have us look into. So what should we do with that?
I mean, I could send the question to the tree committee if it's their product, just to hear back their feedback.
Okay, thank you. And then if we can table the motion, I guess, for approval. So I guess that would be up to Mark Gold. Would you care to table this motion?
Sure, we can table the motion till the next meeting.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Paul, for picking up on that. And then the next thing we have is the approve the town fall meeting, or the fall town meeting for the article submission deadline memo that we've all received. For the motion to approve the article submission memo. You guys see the memo? Basically, it sets parameters in terms of the town meeting will be held on October 27th, and articles for departments and boards are due to the select board's office no later than 12 p.m. on noon at September 15th, 2020, and citizens petitions no later than 12 p.m. noon on September 15th also.
If I can add, it's just something that Deb and I need, and Lynn, in order to work backwards from the town meeting date, in order that a warrant is prepared and posted in a timely manner, also allowing the select board to have enough time to review it and modify it or add whatever articles they would like. But it is, again, it's just the dates have been set by working backwards from the fall town meeting date of October 27th.
And I'll move we adopt the dates as specified in the July 6th memo regarding the special fall town meeting for October 27th, 2020.
Okay, and is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Deb, please.
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Okay. The next thing is the select board meeting schedule, which was sent out to everybody by Deb. And it is there our whole year. We have 4 Tuesday meetings, but all the rest of them will be on Mondays. Those are only due to holidays. We have a motion to accept this June 15th memo regarding the dates of select board meetings.
So moved.
Okay, and second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. Deb, will you do a roll call vote?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
All right, good. We're moving along pretty quickly here. Of course, shouldn't say that because it will get held up. But the next thing on the agenda is the select board liaison assignments. And, we have a new member of the board, Steve Marantz, and Marie is gonna, we have to remove her from a couple of these. So I don't know quite where to start. I know that I had heard, I guess we could start with Steve Marantz. If you had any specific, you may have looked at this list and seen some of the things Marie was taking care of. But I know that the Energy and Sustainability Committee was one that you've been involved with. And is that a responsibility that you would like to provide?
I was on that committee, so actually I thought maybe Marie and I could swap. I could be the select board person and she could be the committee person, but I think that would be fine. I would love to be on the Sustainability Committee. And I'll make one other suggestion. There's a school committee liaison. I was on a school committee for 8 years in South Hadley when we lived there. I think Mark Gold was on that. If he doesn't want to be on that, that would be another committee that I would certainly be able to put together.
I'll be glad to. Go ahead. It's all yours, Steve.
Okay.
Oh, you were too quick there, Mark. I'm not so sure.
All right. Well, that's good. All right. That's a good
Tom, we've still got, Bill Lowe on a couple of these things, so that's how old the list is. And they're pretty critical issues.
Oh, that is true. Yes, he is.
Planning and community preservation.
Capital planning. Yeah. So, any other folks care to make any changes? I know that, Marie was pretty involved with the, the seniors, you know, and I don't know, the Council of Aging Board of Directors. I guess I'd be willing to move and take on that committee. If no one has wants to discuss it, anyone want to take it over. I'll do that. Any other prospective changes that people would be interested in making?
I think we should just go down the list, Tom. I mean, we've got a lot here that need to be filled and updated.
So the audit committee now has an opening because Marie would not be doing that. Any volunteers for audit committee?
I mean, I'll do it, but I've already got 5. I mean, I'll be glad to do any of them.
Well, thank you. Anyone else want to follow up on the audit? All right. Yeah, it would be good to have someone there, Mark. I appreciate that. Okay. And then the Board of Assessors, we have Richard on there. And is that something you're going to be able to continue with, Richard?
No, I had requested my name to be pulled from all committee assignments for this coming season. I've been active on this for 8 years, and I think it's time I pull back and allow some of the other members, especially some of the newer members, to get in and take over some of these assignments.
Okay. So the Board of Assessors, any volunteers on that yet? Okay. We have the Board of Health, who is going through this transition. We can look at that. The Building Demolition Committee. Well, the Building Committee. So Richard is going to remove himself from that. So any...
Tom, maybe I can suggest that what you do is offline, you twist some arms, make some phone calls, coming back with a more complete list rather than go through it tonight, because I don't think we're going to make a lot of progress. I mean, we can do this,
Yeah.
but you're going to have to call each person, twist some arms, and get somebody assigned to these key committees. I mean, for example, I think the capital planning and community preservation are pretty key committees that we have somebody on. But on the other hand, if nobody's the liaison to the building demolition committee, the world's not going to, and I think we know that. But until, of course, somebody wants to demolish a building with them. But for the most part, I think you've been on the board long enough to know the important ones and know the ones we really need to fill and know people's strengths. I think you ought to just take some of the vacancies and twist some arms.
Okay. It seemed other people.
Also, nobody heard from. Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Strange.
So I would be happy to take on the capital planning committee and the community preservation in Bill's place.
All right. So capital planning, Mark, and then the other is community. What was it?
Community preservation committee.
Community preservation, CPC. All right, great. That's good to know. And all right, and then the rules committee. I know that they're going to be doing something with that. Rebecca Townsend had gotten word out that she's going to be looking at that. So that would be another thing that people who wanted to look at the rules committee as regards to town meeting. You may want to consider that as an option. So, all right, well, that's a start. It usually takes more than one meeting to get through this thing. So I will, clean off the names of folks who are not going to be working on this, especially Bill and Marie and Richard. And so we'll do that, and then we'll get back to it. And then if there are any committees out there who are listening and they want a person from the select board specifically, they could also contact me and we can try to draft somebody, get them to participate. So, all right. Okay, so we go next to the goal setting discussion, and we've all received the list of goals that town manager put together, and we added some additional ones. And so why don't we discuss that? I'm not quite sure where to go, but perhaps Lynn can get us started on this discussion.
Great, thank you. So I just took the list that I had provided to you in early June, I think it was, and built off of that. Some of you submitted some goals. I think I added 5 there at the bottom. And just looking in the FY 2021 column, I think most of the ones that I have on this list are ongoing. I would say that looking at it quickly right now, the ones that are going to take the most time because they're in the earliest stages right now would be the website refresh and the general code E-code online codification project. Those are ones that haven't fully gotten off the ground yet or just in the early stages. But most of the others on this list are already well off in planning and have their own momentum going. And I guess I don't know if either of the 2 Marks who submitted goals want to talk about some of what they were considering. I think all 5 of them were great. And I would just, I guess, look for some direction from the rest of the board so that we maybe, hopefully, could get on a same page with these goals so that the efforts that I'm putting in and certainly the time that you're all putting in are all working towards the same goal here. I think that would certainly help me with the planning of my time and the prioritizing of projects going forward.
Okay, great. So we'll start with Mark. Mark Strange, do you want to comment on the goals?
Sure. So, obviously with us heading towards a tax ceiling, development of new properties and new growth is important. It's been part of the discussion since, I first started thinking about running for the board during campaigning and over the past year. And I really think we need to stop talking about it and start doing something about it. PVPC did that preliminary study for 55 and older housing development at the water tower property. Not quite sure what the next phase of pre-development would be, but we should talk about it. I don't know that there's a committee to run that through. I don't know if that would fall on you, Lynn, or where we would go with it. I'd be happy to help out. It's kind of what I do, part of what I do in Agawam. So I can certainly be helpful in that way. I think it's a great idea. 55 and older housing, really like 65 and older housing, is such a shortage right now everywhere. And that's predominantly, the aging population that's complaining. They're complaining about not being able to afford to stay in their houses. That's one issue, and the other issue is not wanting to or being able to maintain, go up and down stairs, things of that nature. So 50, 55 and older housing. There's one going up in Agawam right now. It's specifically zoned for 55 and older, which requires the community center, prohibits children, just things of that nature. And we can look at that. I don't know if that necessarily needs a zone change or not. Blah blah blah. I think we should take a look at it, particularly considering how long these things take to come to fruition, and the availability of the property to develop and our need for new growth. Same thing for the church property next to the shops. I think there was a an attempt at a zone change before my time that failed. It's currently zoned residential. In my opinion, a commercial development there, an extension of the shops is probably the best use of that property. I don't know how much else you can get in there unless you went up. I don't know if we want to go up at that location, visible location. So, I think we should consider, engaging in discussions with the property owner and, consider, our avenues, our possibilities for doing a zone change. And then finally, I think this may just be a get off my lawn thing for me, but seeing all the cars parked on the streets at all times a day, it's a hazard. A lot of them are parked next to driveways and parked close to intersections, which makes it very difficult and dangerous, particularly in a town with so many little kids. If you're driving by a driveway with a car on the street, it's nearly impossible to see a little one running into the street. So that's really bothers me as they go around the front of the street, cars parked on the street. And then, people not mowing their lawns, and, just taking pride in our community. I think we should, and I don't know what form this takes, I think we should, look at increasing our fines and, putting more teeth into our enforcement bylaws, so that we can protect the aesthetics of town and also, keep things safe, particularly on the streets.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Yes, Steve Marantz.
Well, on the concept of properties available for development, Mark, I don't know, Lynn, I'm not sure if anyone looked at, there is this 5-acre property on William Street where there used to be a synagogue a bunch of years ago that was torn down, and that is a hunk of land that's been for sale for a variety of years, and I'm not sure if anyone's looked at that.
It's privately owned, Steve.
Pardon?
It's privately owned. It's gone through 3 development plans that have all fallen through.
But it's for sale, isn't it?
Well, because the current version of the owner, I think, would sell it if they could, but there have been at least 2 or 3 plans for assisted living, Alzheimer's living. I mean, they've all come and gone since the synagogue was torn down. But you're right. I mean, we need to get it developed, but I don't know if the town's going to develop it, or we're just going to do something to encourage some private developer to develop it.
Well, either or is better than having them sit there and do nothing, right?
I mean, the issue is, because we looked at it once for the DPW, there's not as much buildable land in there as you think because of the wetland behind there. So, I think that, but right now it's really been who's willing to put that kind of a capital investment. The big investment was the guy who bought the land and tore down the synagogue. Now we just got to get somebody in there to build a facility they can use. I support it, Steve. I do, but it's not town-owned property like the ones Mark's talked about.
Okay, and so why don't we just go to Mark Gold if you want to talk about a couple of things on here about DPW.
Yeah, so the 2 I have, one is to redevelop the current DPW site for solar farm that maximizes the revenue for the town of Longmeadow. And I was thinking that, when we get, somewhere into the year, we're going to start preparing for our DPW to move. We actually have an RFP that we used for the last solar farm 10 years ago or something, but we've got a basis for putting something together. And the goal is maximize revenue for the town. It's not necessarily we have to go into the solar business, or we have to own it, or whatever it is. We want to lease it out if leasing the land's the best we can do. But we have an RFP. I think there's probably more bidders. Lynn, I think it requires that we get Chad involved through our purchasing to update the RFP. I'd be glad to work on it with them. But at some point, we just want to get something out that says, okay, all you solar developers out there, here's, 5.5 acres. What's your best use for it, and what maximizes the profit for the town without us deciding in advance. So that was my goal, and it was really go to an RFP and see what's out there. The second one was direct the Cable Advisory Committee to review and issue recommendations to the select board for alternative wireless internet services. And this came out of a discussion I'd had with the Cable Advisory Committee at a meeting I was at, something they said they'd be willing to do. And I think that's a matter of us putting together the right directive and having them come back and say, okay, you know, it's kind of like if we job this out to the Cable Advisory Committee to what they think is the best approach and how we go about maximizing revenue to the town by also improving the access and cost of wireless or internet access to community residents. So it really is something I think we can pursue with hopefully minimal upfront input by the town. Let the Cable Advisory Committee take care of it, and then we follow up with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know if there's if folks have any other goals that they wanted to add to this list before we discuss further this. Steve, Marantz?
In terms of following up on solar, which we have the solar farm at DPW is an excellent idea. I know Lynn has green community grants. I'm just wondering if that actually means for buildings that are now under construction for the adult center and for DPW, are those grants applying for solar for those buildings? And if so, that's great. If not, can we do that? I mean, it seems since they're both going up for construction now, so we all know solar pays for itself over time. So do those green community grants apply to those buildings, or should we look elsewhere?
Okay, so that would be a goal we could put, I believe. Lynn, what would you say?
I think you're probably referring to the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant. And yes, we did submit an application for 4 sites, the new DPW, the new adult center, the high school, and the town hall campus. We should hear in August whether any of those are approved. They could do all 4, they could do 1, they could do 3, we're not really sure. So I'm hopeful we'll at least get 1. And then my goal will be to try to certainly figure out for the new DPW. I think I'm in agreement with you, Steve, that I think when we construct new facilities like this, they should have some sort of renewable or sustainable energy component to them. So I'm committed to doing that for the new DPW facility, and definitely pursuing additional green community grant rounds. We can look at that. The LED Streetlight Project is just about wrapped up, and we will have exhausted the Green Communities award that we had from 2013, which makes us eligible for the next rounds. I'm looking forward to that as well. Okay,
so Lynn, should we put this as a goal and just add this on as potential to look at, there's some of these goals, maybe just take off the table if the grant comes in and so forth. But I mean, does that seem reasonable? Add that?
Yeah, we could just maybe add more to the goal number 3 on the list here, or add a new goal to just pursue more sustainable energy or renewable energy options, or do a,
Well, I think you may be right. Why don't we just add it to number 3? That would be good in terms of that addition that Steve is suggesting for new construction. Well, that's good. Now, I had a couple of things that I thought would be good. I didn't send them in, but one I had talked about at our meeting on the 16th, the 17th, and that would be to, develop protocols that will be instituted, safety protocols specifically, that will be instituted as the DPW moves from its present location to the new location. And that's a discussion that we had, years ago, and we said this would be the time to put in safety protocols to make sure that people working with the DPW were safer, and that they had certain procedures that they went through to make sure safety was in order, and then make sure policies like policies regarding severe weather. And, I look at things like, or when the tornado came through Springfield, there was this great tape that you could see on YouTube of the tornado coming through, crossing the river, and in the foreground are city buses that are still driving. And I'm thinking, they all have radios. They all, they can call them and say, there's a tornado, get off and get out, empty the bus. And, so if the bus company doesn't have those kind of policies, I don't know if we do. And there should be a point where, conditions are such that we just say, this is it. You just get out and go in the nearest building or something like that. And we've never had to have any kind of protocols for tornadoes because this was the first real tornado. But as we look at this change, it'd be good to do that. And I don't know, I guess we could start with Mario kind of informing us of this policy, but I see that as a goal that we've had or we've discussed, and maybe we should just make sure it's moving forward. The second is really to, have a task force that would really work to promote Long Meadow as a community that people in the area want to live in. Now, we say, well, why would we need to do that? But there's competition, and people look at Long Meadow compared to other towns in the area and just say, well, I can get more house for the same amount of money, and why would I go to Long Meadow? And so I think we have to set up a force that would really increase the demand for Long Meadow properties, which would then raise the value of our homes. And so, when I did the Vision Task Force in 2019, the strengths of the community were pretty clear. Superior school system, and in a state that has the best public schools in the country, the ease of commuting and access to recreational cultural resources that can meet owners' needs, effective zoning to maintain the character of the town, small town with beautiful colonial architecture and natural settings. We have large sections of open space in wooded areas, excellent infrastructure, the inclusion of sidewalks, a positive feature of the town, and people like the fact that they can walk and bike everywhere, and that the residents, are quality. We have great professional residents. We have a strong spirit of volunteerism and charity. And I think, in the town meeting, when we look at residents stepped up to say, hey, why don't we put some of these consent agenda things together so we can move things along. And that's an example of a kind of town people would want to live in. And the fact that a lot of people who move away from town, end up coming back here. We have a good credit rating. We have a great Department of Safety, public safety, library, parks. And so what we need to do is put together a way to market this. And these just, a committee would put these things together in an effective way. And then we should have a forum for realtors in the area to get them to, revisit, what Long Meadow has to offer. Realtors keep turning over, and, I don't know when was the last time that the town took an active role in promoting, the value of our community and what we have to offer that's a little different than some of the neighboring towns. And because if our property values go up, that's another way to look at avoiding reaching the eventual tax, levy limit. So those would be two of the things: the safety protocols and the a committee to promote the town and try to raise property values. So, any other suggestions about possible goals that we could put on? Okay. And Richard, we haven't heard from you. I don't know if you have any other comments or questions on what was said.
No, I think our list is quite full.
Okay, great. Okay, anyone else? Mark Strange, any other comments or questions? regarding the list? Oh, okay. Steve Marantz?
No.
Okay. Mark Gold?
Nothing. Thank you.
All right. Well, great. So we are flying along here. Let me look at where we are. What do we have left here? So I guess that's it. We will be leaving to go to executive session. I'm pretty sure I covered everything on the agenda. I'll take a quick scan. I think it's
Yeah,
good.
Tom, before you leave, I'd like to make a comment.
Well, we had select board comments at the beginning of the meeting. Is it something that needs to be done at this meeting, or can it wait till the next one?
No, this is in reference to an item we've already discussed. I wanted to remind the board of some information.
Can you be a little more specific? Because we already finished the
Oh,
comment.
that's fine. That's fine, Tom. Forget it.
Well, just which topic was it? Just, all right. We've had a good meeting. I wouldn't want to have it change the tone at this late stage, but you're welcome to make it at the beginning of our next meeting. So we're looking for a vote to enter into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with regards to anticipated litigation relative to the new DPW facility, discussion of which an open meeting may have detrimental effects to the litigation position of the town, and the chair so declares not to reconvene in open session. Approval and vote on minutes of June 24th, 2020 will also be made. Is there a motion to move to executive session?
So moved.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
Okay. We can take a roll call vote. Deb, please.
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Okay. So we will move to executive session. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back in 2 weeks on that Monday, July 20th. I'll see you then. Thank you. Good evening.